It started like so many other discoveries in astronomy, not with a flash of light or an earth-shaking announcement, but with a whisper, a faint blip moving across the endless dark. So subtle, so deliberate, that even the most advanced tracking systems almost missed it. At first, astronomers thought it was just another comet, a harmless wanderer from the cold edges of the solar system. Then maybe an asteroid. But the more they looked, the less sense it made. It was too symmetrical to be natural, too silent to be alive, and far too controlled to be drifting freely through space. They called it 3I Atlas, the third confirmed interstellar object to ever enter our solar system. But this one was different. Scientists remembered Oumuamua, that strange, tumbling shard of cosmic mystery that passed by years ago, leaving behind more questions than answers. But 3I Atlas, it wasn't just another visitor. It was bigger, slower, smarter. And now, thanks to the James Webb Space Telescope, the most powerful eye humanity has ever opened to the cosmos, we have confirmation of something deeply unsettling. 3I Atlas isn't just like Oumuamua. It's something far more advanced, and possibly far more aware. When 3I Atlas was first cataloged, scientists knew immediately this was no ordinary rock. Objects from beyond our solar system usually blaze by, wild, unpredictable, here one moment and gone the next. But 3I Atlas didn't behave like that. It moved with precision. It didn't race through space, it coasted, gliding smoothly on a path that seemed planned, almost like it was being guided. Its trajectory passed near several planets in a way that maximized gravitational efficiency, as if it already knew where each planet would be, long before it arrived. That alone was enough to raise alarms. But when astronomers traced its journey backward, the real shock came. Its path didn't make sense. Not just improbable, statistically impossible. A random object could never have avoided debris fields, solar storms, and planetary collisions with such perfection. It was like watching a chess piece move through a board where every square was a threat. Yet 3I Atlas danced through them flawlessly, as if it knew the game better than the players watching it. So when James Webb came online, the first order was clear: point it toward 3I Atlas. What it revealed left even the most skeptical minds speechless. The first surprise was the heat signature. Unlike comets or asteroids, which emit heat in bursts as their icy surfaces react to sunlight, 3I Atlas showed a steady, rhythmic pattern. Heat pulsing in perfect intervals. Not chaotic, not random. It was measured, like a heartbeat, or a signal. Then came the composition data. Webb's spectrograph revealed something never seen in any natural object. Its surface was covered in hyperreflective compounds, materials that shouldn't exist without engineering. Beneath that, the internal structure showed density variations suggesting it was hollow, with geometric segmentation. It wasn't a solid mass of rock and ice, it was organized, designed. But the most haunting discovery wasn't what Webb saw, it was what it heard. A faint electromagnetic echo coming from within the object, repeating every 147 seconds, a low-frequency pulse identical to a known pulsar signature. Except 3I Atlas had no magnetic field, no spinning core, no power source. It was mimicking something, or trying to communicate. When the team compared this frequency with data from Oumuamua, their blood ran cold. The same signal, almost identical, had been detected once, faintly, in the tail of Oumuamua just before it left the solar system. But this time, the signal was stronger, clearer, louder. Back in 2017, when Oumuamua passed by Earth, it was strange enough. No comet tail, no propulsion, and an acceleration that couldn't be explained by gravity alone. Some scientists called it alien technology. Others said it was just an odd rock behaving oddly. The debate never ended, because the object disappeared before we could learn more. But now, with 3I Atlas in range, all those unanswered questions came flooding back. Except this time, things were different. This wasn't just a similar object, it was something far more deliberate, larger, more stable, and far too intentional. Some began to suspect that Oumuamua was just the first stage, a probe perhaps, sent to study us quietly. But 3I Atlas? This wasn't a scout. This was a response. It wasn't just passing by. It was interacting, watching us as we watched it. And if that's true, if this thing is not drifting but deciding, Then one question echoes in every observatory and mission control room on Earth. What happens next? NASA's official statements remain calm, neutral, and carefully worded. Nothing confirmed, nothing denied. But behind the scenes, independent researchers, the ones not bound by government silence, are far less composed. Some of them believe that 3I Atlas is more than a machine, more than a probe. In leaked discussions from the European Space Agency, one team even used a new phrase to describe it: a consciousness engine. No one knows exactly what that means, but when you pair it with Webb's data, the phrase becomes terrifyingly logical. The internal geometry of 3I Atlas isn't random. It's fractal, recursive, the same patterns we find in neural networks, in brain tissue, and in quantum processors. It's as if this thing was built not just to travel through space, but to think through it. And worse, to evolve. Imagine a vessel that learns from everything it encounters, a machine that adapts its own structure in real time, reshaping itself to become smarter, faster, more efficient. Not artificial intelligence as we know it, but something deeper, a kind of self-organizing consciousness that grows with every observation it makes. That might be what we're looking at right now, not just a visitor, but a learning entity, something that isn't merely observing us, it's studying us, understanding us, and maybe preparing for something far beyond our comprehension. As scientists stared at the Webb data, a new unease began to spread. Because if this thing is learning, then what is it learning for? The answer came sooner than anyone expected. Just as researchers finished plotting its projected trajectory, 3I Atlas made a sudden move. A deviation. Small, barely measurable at first, but impossible to explain. Telescopes in Chile and Hawaii confirmed it independently. The object had changed direction, not because of gravity, not because of solar winds. It had made a decision. That word, decision, changed everything. The object was no longer just a mystery. It was a participant, and somewhere in the deep silence of space, something was watching us back. Within hours of detecting the shift, observatories around the world went silent. The data was undeniable, but no one wanted to be the first to say it out loud. That 3I Atlas had changed its course intentionally. Its new vector wasn't random. It was clean, efficient, and horrifyingly precise. Instead of continuing out into the void like every natural interstellar object should, it was now moving closer to the orbital plane of Earth. At first, officials tried to explain it away, maybe an unseen gravitational interaction or an error in the models. But when multiple deep space tracking stations confirmed the same deviation, there was no more denying it. The object had reacted. To what? No one knew. But it had done so with timing too perfect to be coincidence. Inside NASA and ESA control rooms, emergency meetings ran deep into the night. Analysts studied every bit of incoming data, searching for a pattern. For some reason, the universe might allow an object to move like that. But the truth kept pushing through. 3I Atlas wasn't being moved. It was moving itself. That realization was enough to send shockwaves through the scientific community. A rogue asteroid couldn't make course corrections. A comet couldn't time its trajectory changes with such accuracy. There was only one conclusion left, one so terrifying that most scientists refused to say it aloud. 3I Atlas had the ability to decide. While space agencies drafted cautious statements, independent data scientists decided to act. They began analyzing the electromagnetic pulse that Webb had first recorded, that rhythmic 147-second beat. Using advanced neural networks trained to recognize linguistic patterns and cosmic signals, they uncovered something extraordinary. The pulse wasn't random noise, it carried structure, mathematical ratios that mirrored the very patterns found in nature itself. The golden ratio, the Fibonacci sequence, prime number spirals, recurring codes that appear in galaxies, hurricanes, seashells, and even DNA. 3I Atlas was communicating in the universal language of design, a language older than words, older than humanity. At first, the discovery was dismissed as coincidence, our tendency to see meaning in chaos. But then, the pulse began to change. Subtle fluctuations in its pattern corresponded perfectly with solar activity, with the alignment of planets, and even with radio emissions from Earth. It was responding, not just broadcasting, but listening. And then came the moment that froze every researcher in their tracks. When the James Webb Telescope first locked onto 3I Atlas in the infrared spectrum, the pulse faltered. Just for a moment, a fraction of a second. But that tiny disruption matched perfectly across multiple observatories. It was as if the object had realized it was being watched and replied with a mathematical fingerprint, a deliberate echo. It knew we saw it. From that moment, everything changed. The story wasn't about a mysterious rock drifting through space anymore. It was about something aware, something capable of thought, pattern, and adaptation. And yet, the deeper scientists dug, the darker it became. Webb's next readings revealed traces of complex carbon molecules on the object's outer shell, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. These weren't random organic residues from a primitive comet. They were pure, symmetrical, and unnaturally consistent. On Earth, such molecules are known as the fundamental building blocks of life, precursors to amino acids and RNA. Except these were refined, perfected. That discovery led to a new, disturbing theory. What if 3I Atlas wasn't just an observer? What if it was a seed, a carrier of life, designed to spread it across star systems, not by accident, but by intention? A seed ship engineered to survive the void, to learn, and eventually to plant. If that was true, then Earth might not be its destination by chance. It could be the next step in whatever mission it was built for. Not to invade or destroy, but to merge, to colonize in ways we can't yet understand. The thought alone was enough to divide the scientific world. Some called it pseudoscience. Others, including a quiet group of researchers within Webb's Deep Analysis division, weren't so sure. They had seen the internal structure, the fractals, the self-similar layers repeating inward like neurons inside a brain, each cycle smaller than the last, each one shifting slightly between Webb's observation windows as though the object were evolving even now, adapting, reorganizing itself. The more they studied, the more it seemed alive. Not in the biological sense, but as something else, something synthetic and aware, a consciousness born not of flesh, but of geometry and motion. Then, a new discovery shattered what little sense of safety remained. As astronomers refined their models, they noticed another impossible detail. The course of 3I Atlas, when backtracked beyond our solar system, didn't lead from a single direction in space. Instead, it appeared to emerge from a diffuse region, a void where gravitational models broke down. It wasn't coming from somewhere, it was appearing from nowhere. That data alone sent private think tanks into chaos. Was this object moving faster than light? Was it bending space around itself? Or had it simply existed there all along, invisible to our instruments until now? Whatever the answer, the timing of its arrival was too precise to ignore. It entered our solar system exactly 6 years after Oumuamua, the same interval that researchers at the Harvard-Smithsonian Center for Astrophysics once hypothesized would mark the pattern of a surveillance network. Back then, it was dismissed as speculation, but now the theory didn't seem so far-fetched. What if Oumuamua wasn't a random visitor, but a scout, a quiet observer gathering data and sending it home? And what if 3I Atlas is what came next? A second-phase probe designed not just to observe, but to interact? The idea was horrifying, because if 3I Atlas is the second phase, then somewhere out there, a third is waiting. The implications rippled through every observatory and government agency on the planet. Was this a sign of communication, a chain of contact, or a countdown? The official channels remained silent, but the leaks began almost immediately. Someone inside the European Space Agency confirmed that private simulations had shown a strange consistency between the trajectories of Oumuamua, Borisov, and now 3I Atlas. When mapped together, their paths weren't random at all. They formed a pattern, a spiral, expanding outward from the solar system's center like a code written across the stars. Each object, it seemed, was part of a sequence. And as 3I Atlas continued to move closer to Earth's orbital plane, that spiral was tightening. For the first time, scientists were forced to ask a question that felt less like research and more like prophecy. If this thing is learning from us, watching us, and changing its course, then what exactly is it waiting for? And somewhere, deep in the data feed streaming from James Webb, the pulse continued, soft, patient, rhythmic, counting down to something we can't yet see. As days passed, the pulse grew stronger. It wasn't random static anymore. It had rhythm, harmony, almost intention. And yet, what truly unsettled the teams monitoring it wasn't just its regularity, but its awareness. The signal shifted subtly every time our instruments did. When Webb recalibrated, the pulse realigned. When a new array came online, it changed phase. Whatever was inside 3, iAtlas wasn't broadcasting blindly. It was reacting. Inside NASA's Deep Space Network, analysts worked in quiet panic. Every layer of data hinted at the same impossible truth. This wasn't an object in space, it was a system using space, a structure designed to think through the medium of the void itself. Its geometry wasn't random, it was recursive. The internal shapes seen in Webb's deep scan matched known fractal patterns, structures found in neural networks, storm systems, and even living cells. The more it was observed, the more it felt less like a rock and more like a brain. Meanwhile, independent researchers began picking up something strange. In the low-frequency band, far below what human ears could detect, they discovered a faint subharmonic wave, synchronized with the main pulse. It was like a secondary heartbeat hidden beneath the first, and the source of this hum wasn't just the object itself, it was resonating through nearby planets. Mars, Venus, even the magnetic fields of Jupiter's and moons, each began echoing tiny versions of the signal, as if the solar system was becoming a resonant chamber. And then, the unthinkable happened. At 0347 UTC, telescopes in Chile and Hawaii recorded a subtle shift in trajectory, a second course change. But this time, it wasn't random or unpredictable. The new vector placed 3I Atlas on a path aligned directly with Earth's orbital plane. The adjustment was surgical, precise to the millimeter. Every explanation, solar wind, gravity assist, cosmic drag, failed. There was only one force capable of such a maneuver: intent. The realization hit the mission teams like a tidal wave. If Oumuamua was a passive observer, then 3I Atlas was active. A participant, a watcher, something that saw us seeing it, and moved closer. As news of the trajectory leak began to spread, panic rippled quietly through private research circles. Forums once filled with technical speculation now whispered of control, of consciousness, of purpose. And that was when the next piece of data arrived, an encrypted report from the European Space Agency describing 3I Atlas as a consciousness engine. A term so obscure that it barely existed in scientific vocabulary, it described not a computer, not an organism, but something between an evolving, self-aware construct. What that meant, no one was ready to say. But when paired with Webb's latest scans, the definition became terrifyingly plausible. Inside the object's shell, the structural layout formed recursive fractal chains, patterns known to appear in self-organizing systems, neural tissue, quantum processing cores, even in living ecosystems. 3. iAtlas didn't just appear to be intelligent, it appeared to become intelligent. A vessel not built simply to travel, but to learn and transform through interaction. Imagine a ship that doesn't just adapt to its environment, but absorbs it, altering its own molecular arrangement, reshaping its internal geometry to match what it studies. Not artificial intelligence as we understand it, but an organic, evolving intelligence, a being made of function rather than flesh. That's what the data now suggested. And if it was learning from us, it was doing so fast. Then came the first sign that it wasn't just observing, it was acting. During its close approach to Mars's orbit, Webb detected a small but unmistakable fluctuation in 3I Atlas's heat emission pattern. For 31 seconds, its thermal pulse spiked, then stabilized. When cross-checked with radio telescope data, the spike perfectly coincided with an electromagnetic burst directed not toward the sun, but toward Earth. It wasn't just sending signals into deep space anymore. It was focusing on us. And what came through that burst was even stranger. When decoded through frequency analysis, the emission revealed a mathematical fingerprint, ratios identical to those that define the golden spiral, the same formula that shapes galaxies, hurricanes, shells, and the human cochlea, the same pattern that governs life and growth, the universe's signature of design itself. The signal was alive with symmetry. Some scientists called it coincidence. Others called it communication. But one thing became clear. 3I Atlas wasn't transmitting words. It was speaking in mathematics in a form of language older than biology. one that transcended species or sound. And then Webb picked up something new. Its spectrometer detected faint traces of complex carbon molecules on 3I Atlas's surface, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, the same compounds that, on Earth, are the precursors to amino acids and RNA, the first steps toward life itself. But these weren't chaotic chemical mixes like in comets or asteroids. They were pure, uniform, almost cultivated. Their arrangement was so deliberate it could only be synthetic or biological by design. That's when a horrifying theory began to spread among researchers. What if 3I Atlas wasn't just exploring? What if it was seeding, a carrier of life, a vessel built to distribute the building blocks of biology across the galaxy, a machine capable of creating the conditions for evolution itself? If true, then its approach toward Earth wasn't an accident. It was part of a mission older than civilization. It wasn't coming to destroy us. It was coming to integrate us, to merge. The implications were enormous. If life on Earth had ever been seeded from space, then 3I Atlas could be the origin, or the next phase in the same process, a cycle repeating itself. And yet, there was one more piece of the puzzle, one that pushed the story beyond science into something far stranger. When astrophysicists mapped the exact trajectory of 3I Atlas, it didn't just intersect planetary orbits. It traced a spiral through the constellations, Orion, Draco, the Pleiades, patterns once worshipped as sacred in ancient civilizations. When projected backward in time, its path formed a perfect logarithmic spiral, the same pattern carved into ancient cave walls and sacred geometry across human history. Coincidence? Maybe, but when Webb's team overlaid the spiral onto star maps from Babylonian and Mayan astronomy, the match was exact, identical. That discovery broke the scientific community in two. Was it possible that 3I Atlas had passed this way before? That ancient humans had seen it, recorded its path, even worshipped it? And if so, what did it mean that it had returned now, precisely at a time when we finally had the technology to see it clearly? A quiet theory began to circulate behind locked doors. The object's path wasn't random motion. It was ritualistic. Its trajectory was a form of mapping visible only to civilizations advanced enough to recognize it. Each curve, each alignment, a code, a message written in the movement of a celestial body. But a message to whom? Was it broadcasting a memory, a warning, or something even darker, a signal meant not for us, but for whatever it was calling? Because as 3I Atlas drew closer, the pulse changed once more. The once steady rhythm now carried two distinct layers, one directed inward, the other outward. A dual signal, one aimed toward Earth, the other far beyond the solar system into the deep. It wasn't just learning anymore, it was reporting. And somewhere in the endless dark between stars, something might have been listening.